Hey there, folks. So, this is going to be the first episode in my micro tutorial series. This first one is actually based off a question I got on my landscape sculpting series mini series that I've got for the main project I have going on. And it was how I created the material that I used to overlay a Google Map image onto my landscape that I could use for a reference. So, what I've done to start here, I've just come in, started at a basic level. I have a really small terrain, 253 by 253, just for the sample of this. But what we're going to do here, just in our content browser, you can see I've pulled in that image I was using. But we're going to create a new material, and I just call this sculpting overlay. So yeah, I just name it sculpting overlay material. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to move my content browser out of the way and bring the material editor over. So first thing you want is a texture sample. And I'm just going to set that to the texture I pulled in and connect that into your base. Now you're also going to want a texture coordinate, landscape coordinate. I believe that's, no, I use texture. Texture coordinate node. Now you want a divide. Connect the texture coordinate node into A, put that near UVs, and then give yourself a scalar parameter. And it's because I do this as a reusable material and use material instances. You don't have to do that. You can just create this as a static material, but this is just map size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to default this to 2017 just for when we get to actually throwing this on the terrain. Now, if you want to add a normal map, you can. Sometimes what I do here is actually parameter switch. Or is it switch parameter? Static switch parameter, that's it. Use normal. For anyone who's watched the first episode of that mini series on the world sculpting, I threw some normals on there to help with my sculpting. What I do is in the false, I just create a what one's blue? R1. Yeah. So create a vector 3 05051. Connect that into your false. Add another texture sample, connect that into the true. I don't know if I actually have any normals. Let me check. I've got a water material in this one. A stone right there. So I'm going to throw that in there. And this normal that's just flat. There's no extra normals. And the next thing I do, I just add a static single constant, float constant, put that in the metallic specular, and then another one that you can add in. You can add this to 1 if you want for roughness. What this does is that just gets rid of any shine that you have on the material whatsoever. So this is the material itself. It's really basic. Texture coordinate, map size, used for your UVs. I don't do any scaling to the normals. And metallic and specular are 0. Roughness is 1. With the 5.4, I'm at force a habit on there. You can actually just set these to 0 by default and the roughness to 1. You don't even need that parameter. I just realized that afterwards. So we're going to save that. I'm going to close this. I'm going to bring back my content browser. Go back to my sculpting materials. Just make sure, yep, that's the right one. I'm going to create a material instance, and we're going to go the fall overlay. Overlay MI. Again, naming is whatever you want it to be. Let's just quickly save that, but I'm going to drag that onto the landscape. Realized I didn't have it selected. Now you're going to see this is ridiculously huge. But if we open up this material, let me just get this where you can see both. So over here, in our global scaler, we're going to change our map size. We're going to drop that down to a 1009. You notice it gets smaller. 505 gets smaller, and then finally this is a 253 map. So that gives you the map, and you can see that's basically what I was using there in the series. There you can see the river I was sculpting in. I didn't go as far as adding the island there, but so that gives you a rough idea of how that works. And then with that global scaler, actually I'm going to throw some basic sculpting on this to give you an idea. Go back down and you'll see it's very flat. Go over to flat lighting, or sorry, detailed lighting. Lighting only, yeah, detailed lighting. Very, very flat. But if you use that normal parameter, when you're in like up close doing like some of your more, I don't want to call it detailed sculpting, because you don't do that with landscape. You use static mesh and stuff to put finer details in. But it gives you some idea of like the shape better than just the flat. So, and yeah, from there, you can use whatever you want. Let me grab another image I've got just so we can show you. Let's see. What have I got? One of my old custom images I made. Maps. Let's pull this one over. You can import. Come on. There you go. Importing done. So now, the other thing, and I actually missed doing this in the material, so I'm just going to open that up quick. You want to convert this texture, if you're doing material instance, I'll rephrase that. You want to convert this to a parameter, and then just name it something like overlay map. Apply and save. And the reason for that is for just what I'm about to do here. You now have the ability to change that per instance. So I'm just gonna let me just save this texture I just imported. Grab that. I'm gonna throw that on here. It's a completely different map, and we're gonna go here to lit, and you can see this was a very bad attempt at a map I had done. Gridded it out. Excuse me. Get rid of that. Don't use flattened targets. Full strength. Get rid of that sculpting. But yeah, so then you would have something like this, and then let's go sculpt. Actually, we won't flatten. And my workflow here really, and this is just really quick for you guys. I don't need this being a really long episode. Come in with your flat. Oh, camera's at insane speed. You come in, and so just with something like this. So you've got obviously all your water. Scale my brush down. Flatten target. Pick your terrain. By default, it's at 100. And what I do is just something like 250. I get rid of the fall off. 256. I'll drop that down to a power of 2. And then you just come in and okay, let's sculpt some basic shapes in here. Now there is obviously height maps you can import and everything like that. I just find when I'm sculpting a specific map that I know exactly what I want, I use something like a method like this. And I can iterate back and forth between using Unreal to do sculpting. You can use products like World Machine. I've used World Machine in the past, but because I'm now looking at commercial-esque products, can't use the free version anymore. So with that though, like I said, this is just a really basic tutorial episode I throwing together just because there was some questions about the material I used, and hopefully this gives people some information there to help. You can use any sort of thing. You could use well, if you're using a grayscale, you may as well be using a height map. So yeah, so that's just the material I used to use an overlay to create the, well, not to create, but to put that on the terrain so I could then sculpt. And the way I've laid that out, let's open this up again. The way this is laid out, it's now set up in a way that you can adjust it no matter what map you're using, what size landscape you're using. It's all adjustable. So, because again, with my primary project I'm working on, I do autosave. I do intend to have like a couple of different maps and things like that eventually. So you'll probably see throughout the landscape series I'll be working on various different maps that I'll be using that's the same material on. So yeah, as I said, this is the first in my micro tutorial series. I'm hoping to keep these pretty short, like 10-15 minute episodes for little things like this, just little tips and tricks I've worked on and figured out over the years. So, but as always, any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I respond to pretty much all of them, and in this case, this was a question about one of my materials I was using. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.